Great.
This meeting is being recorded.
So we'll go ahead. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started here. So the one thing that you can count on is change, right? With Google and with life in general, there's just going to be change. So the idea here is to help you all leverage what you're doing today based on some new things that Google is doing, and really starting with image extensions, the benefits of whether you can do those manually or if you rely on the automated protocol that Google offers. And then we'll go into some examples of how you can leverage video. I think the stats are 82% of all marketing for 2022 is going to have video. So if you're not doing that today, that's probably something that you'll want to think about. And then Mike will be presenting the third-party cookies. I'm sure you all have heard about that. And he'll give you an overview of, you know, where they are, where they're going, and what you can do about it. The things that you'll be able to learn today is how to create the image extensions and how to get more value from your strategy as you're building these ads. And you'll learn ways to leverage the extensions, doing this from a manual perspective or leveraging Google's automated protocol. Obviously, that's in integrating AI if you're using it that way. And there's some pros and cons, so we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll show you some examples and outcomes of some of the work we've done for some of our manufacturers on using these different strategies. So that'll be a part of what you'll hear today. And then Mike will talk to you about some ideas that you can leverage by creating first-party cookies, and again, how to tackle the challenges that are being called out now with regard to third-party cookies. It's not a new idea, but the fact of the matter is it's starting to affect people now. So extensions for Google ads and what you need to know. First of all, we're using them for a variety of our clients. Image extensions are actually that. They're images that go along with your search ad campaigns, and we add them to add relevancy and interest to the search campaigns that we're implementing on behalf of our clients. And we typically build these from a manual perspective because we can be more strategic with our efforts. And we have been working with not only ads to generate leads, obviously, for our clients, but also to conduct recruiting, because I'm sure you guys are all experiencing this as well, that you need to have more staff. So keep things working. So that's the other thing that we're doing for a lot of our manufacturing clients. The next slide really talks about what Google is reporting in terms of the benefits and results by adding the extensions to your ads. So as you can see, we're seeing a 7% increase in conversions when we do the expanded text ads or responsive search ads using the same assets. So the proof is in the numbers, and we'll share some of the outcomes that we've experienced as well. The next just goes into what the extensions do and how they work. So again, you can expand your search ad with additional information, and there's not an additional cost to add that extension, but it adds more relevancy to the search result for the individual that's being served the ad. So you can add more content, and the idea would be to think about what you're selling, what you're promoting, and be strategic about the content that you're adding. Again, so that you can create greater visibility on the search results. Again, there are two types of extension. Manual, as it infers, means that you're building the extensions. There's some more setup versus when you're relying on Google to provide the automated extension. They are conducted again via Google versus the manual extensions. So one thing that I think is really interesting, and what I found is a lot of people are not aware of, is that Google has access to a library of free stock images that you can use and you can access at no cost. And you can select the stock images option when you're building your image extension. Once you found an image you like, you just crop it and put it into the square landscape format before you apply it to the extension. On the other side of the equation are the automated extensions. And those are dynamic. And again, as I inferred earlier, it uses machine learning or AI to automatically select the most relevant images from your ad's landing page. And they add them to your ad. The one thing to bear in mind is you've got to make sure you really like the images, and there's a corollary to your ad groups and search campaigns so that you've got the most relevant image being cobbled onto your campaigns. So some best practices to think about: apply at least 3 images to your extension, so you and make sure that they're relevant in terms of your keywords, and that you've got the most important content in the center of the images when you're cropping them. Think about calls to action. So we call them CTAs. Make sure that you have incorporated calls to action, the location information, links to parts on your website. So if you're doing a new product launch or a new service launch, make sure you have a link to that so that you're adding content to that extension. And then, again, adding more content is always better. The other things, to think about is obviously you want your ad to be shown. So scheduling the ad extensions, and if you're doing automated, make sure that those are being structured correctly. Make sure you're thinking about measurement and incorporating lead tracking wherever possible. So one of the things we do as a best practice is we have specific phone numbers assigned to all of our campaigns, so we know which ones have elicited the best response through phone calls and obviously lead forms or a lead funnel that is submitted as a result of the ad. Then here's a few examples. So in our case, when we added the image extensions, we saw almost a 400% increase in conversions, and we did them manually. So here's a couple of examples for manufacturers we work with. And so you can kind of see the cumulative increase before we had them just as a pure search ad. So best practices, what we found is really the 3 things to think about are making sure that you've got a call to action and feature the benefits of what you're promoting on behalf of your company, making sure you're featuring the end benefit versus just the features of the product. So these are the top 3 ad layouts according to Google. And so you can kind of just see the cost per impression, which is, as you can see, is a combination of CTR and conversion rates. So things to remember: it's not going to guarantee that your ad's going to show all the time. Your position and ad rank, it needs to be high enough to have the extensions show. And that's just one of the calculations that factors into your ads being served. And again, keep track. Make sure you're tracking your performance and when the ads and extensions are being shown. I don't know if we want to pause here before I go into the videos with any questions on that segment of my talk. I'm open to answer questions now. What are your thoughts, Alyssa?
Yeah, that would be just fine if anybody has any questions.
Are we seeing any?
doesn't look like at this time.
See one chat. Let's see. It says, will this presentation be shared with everyone? Somebody's asked that. So
yes, I will be sending the link out after our presentation today to everybody. So
sounds good. All right, so I'll jump into the next topic. So video, as I started with this conversation today, according to Cisco, over 82% of internet traffic will be comprised of video. So if you're not doing video, start thinking about it now, and there's some really cool ways you can be very targeted with how you serve your ads. Obviously the most popular video sharing is YouTube, and I'm sure all of you've seen plenty of YouTube videos. There's obviously other types of streaming capabilities as well, but I'm going to focus on the 5 different ways that you can leverage video ads. So the advantage of creating YouTube videos is that you can place and be very targeted with your placement with YouTube and Google. And we'll talk about that here in a second. The other benefit is that you're going to see a better ROI because you're displaying video ads to targeted users that have already shown interest in your company, your product or service. And you're having an opportunity to broaden your reach with the vast network that YouTube has. Again, the pricing is efficient as well. So CPV means cost per view bidding that you can leverage. And there's all different types of formats that can be created for the videos. So you can show the ads using, different types of viewer types. And then you can also kind of block people that aren't the right customer as well, so you're not wasting money. So there are 3 kinds of modules that are available in creating a segment. So these are created by age, gender, occupation, but also you can, if you're targeting consumers, you can look at parental status, household income. It can be broadened. From a B2B perspective, you might know that your audience is predominantly male, 45 to 55. I'm making this up, but you can be very specific in some of the demographic information as a part of your segmenting. Then when you look at your audience, you'll be able to look and target at groups of people with specific interests. So one of our clients is a manufacturer of farming equipment and blades. And so you can understand that we can target those consumers and promote those blades for their bobcats and farming equipment. You can target affinity segments, so based on their habits. So if you're selling products that go targeting camping people, you can look at that. In market, so based on purchase intent, you can look at people who are similar to those who have been visiting your website and your existing customers. So using your customer lists, so you can find other customers who match your current customer profile. Your segments can be based on people who have visited your site or apps in the past. And you can be customized in targeting who you're going after based on your goal. And then there's life event segments. So people who are in different types of milestones, if you will, in their life. So the exclusions, as I was saying earlier, you can block or exclude segments that you don't want to have as a part of your target. So that gives you an idea of that. So the segments are created by linking your YouTube channel to your Google Ads. And once that's done, you can go and look at the video from a channel. You can look at specific videos that you want to have served. You can look at channel subscriptions, And you can look at people who've liked videos from a specific channel, and anybody who's shared a video from a specific channel. And these are part of your targeting settings that are you can use with your shared library. And this goes into the specifics on how to set up the ads. There are 5 types of video ads, and I'm sure you've experienced them, and probably all of them, because we're always online, we're on our phones, right, all the time. Or we're playing video games, and you have ads that are served to you. You have ads served to you through Tubi or the streaming platforms that we watch today. So there are 5 types of video ads. And we'll go into the first, which are in-stream video ads. So I'm sure you guys have heard of pre-rolls, and you've probably seen them. So those play before a video starts. So you can serve ads to people that you know are your potential audience with these pre-rolls. Mid-rolls happen during the middle of the video, and those are usually irritating. I'm sure you've probably experienced that. And then the last is post-rolls. The most effective are pre-rolls, so if you can place them as a pre-roll, that's probably the most effective use of the in-stream video ads. Here's an example of one that we produced for one of our clients. I'm gonna go into it quickly.
Our modest innovation evolution began over 17 years ago with one piece of equipment developing cutting-edge products for ever-changing retail signage. Innovation fueled by culture.
We're customer-centric, engaged, and responsive. You can imagine it. We can help you bring it to life. Come check us out. Schedule a tour today. We'd love to meet you.
So that shows an example of a pre-roll that we're currently using, and you'll notice it's pretty short. It's only 30 seconds long. Again, there's prerequisites in terms of the size of the videos. Bumper videos are like 10 seconds. You can be really clever with them, and they can actually go viral based on what you've put together in terms of your video and your story. The other is outstream video ads, and those usually appear within the website content or on the side of a website for different platforms. So if you went to the Wall Street Journal, or if you went to a different entity, you might have an ad served to you you would see through an outstream video ad. The third is in-banner video ads, and those are usually GIFs or short videos that run on a particular web page. I'm sure you've seen those when you've gone to different websites. And there are ways that ads can start. You can have them click the play button. Think of calls to action. Think about what's in it for them to watch the video as you're developing your videos for this. And the good news is these ads don't require a huge budget. They're good at, if you want to be really efficient with the way that you're placing or testing these. So that's something to be thinking about. Then the fourth are the native video ads, and they kind of match the look and feel of a particular website. They are considered to be effective on social media platforms like Facebook or LinkedIn. LinkedIn is really promoting the use of video. I will tell you, we've tested a lot of ads on LinkedIn, and they have not produced a good result. I'm just putting that right out there. They made changes in their algorithms last year, and we thought it was going to be better. And we've tested it with several clients. Again, every business is different, but in our experience, it has not been as effective as we'd hoped. The last is interstitial video ads, and they cover the entire screen of the website or app or video game that you're playing. They're pretty common. I'm sure you've had them served to you when you're playing a video game, or you're on Amazon Prime. You'll be set a streaming video. You'll see them again through the entire screen on your device. But they're really good at really providing an overview of your company and telling your story. So that's the 5th example. So improve your targeting, and my recommendation is to think about testing the different types of ad formats. Play with this a little bit, use different text and image with your different concepts. Make sure that you're tracking everything so you're not wasting your dollars. Make sure you're looking at what's working and what isn't working. What we typically do is we'll create a master video with the thinking that we're going to take excerpts of that video and use them from this perspective. So with bumper videos or pre-rolls, etc. We're always cognizant of that when we're shooting videos for our clients. So that's something to be thinking about as you're planning your videos for 2022. Again, you can customize your targeting, as I shared before, with the segmenting, so you're reaching the people that fit your demographic. So that's all I had. Any questions for me on the video side before Mike gets into first and third party cookies?
Yeah, we had one from Pam. She's asking, do you produce the video or does the client produce the video?
We do produce them for our clients. Sometimes the client has video that we can leverage raw footage from to create these. So it's kind of a mixed bag. We usually create storyboards and we have a strategy in terms of what we want the outcome or the ROI to look like.
And then we have one from Sam. Which video ad types have yielded the highest conversions?
Pre-rolls in our experience.
Great questions.
Yeah, great questions. All right. Well, Mike, you get to talk about cookies.
Yay. My favorite. Except these aren't edible, so they're actually not the favorite kind of cookie. Anyway, if you could scoot forward. So really there's 2 types of cookies. First party cookies are developed by the domain, right? So they are your cookies, they're first party. Third party cookies are essentially, we call them cookies, but it's a tracking code, and they're placed on the visitor's computer by a third party. So someone that is not your domain. So Facebook and others. And so there's really kind of 2 ways to look at this: your cookies or vendor's cookies. It's kind of how that comes together. And so if we scoot forward, really what we're seeing is with the phase out of third-party cookies, a lot of people are predicting that they're not going to have the same ability to track that we've had. A lot of these third-party cookies really help identify tracking, shopping spend and, things that people have, websites they've visited and so on and so forth. So with all of that going away, as a marketer, we're kind of sitting here saying, gosh, how are we going to know who's on our website? How are we going to be able to serve, relevant information to them from a marketing perspective? And so that's why we're seeing kind of these big numbers here. To that, we're also seeing that, okay, well, if we don't have that same tracking, we don't have the same, ability to serve really engaging advertisements. And so we're going to have to expand and kind of broaden our scope, which means spending more, serving more ads to more people to hopefully find the relevant folks that are going to be interested in our advertisements. And then lastly, we're seeing that a lot of marketers kind of maybe want to pivot. Okay, well, if we can't use our website for the same type of marketing, and tracking for our customers, maybe we should use other marketing tools. So that's kind of what we're seeing, as an industry from a marketing perspective, people predicting. But again, this is just kind of all up in the air at the moment, as you'll see. We'll get into here. We'll go to the next slide. Really, nobody's getting rid of third-party cookies. What's happening, and Firefox and Safari and a lot of other browsers have already blocked third-party cookies from automatically loading, but that doesn't mean that they're gone. Users still have the ability to load third-party cookies on their own, and same with Google. And Google was going to phase them out, but they've extended that timeline really because we're kind of seeing some things happen as a result of these changes and the fears that are kind of coming with it. And so there's new technologies coming out that are they're interesting, but we don't know if they're going to stick, and they might actually harm privacy, you know, compared to third-party cookies. So digital fingerprinting, for example. So why we're saying they're being phased out, it's not, the jury's kind of still out on where we're going to go, and we'll kind of touch on that next. But the nice thing is most people use Chrome. Chrome is a Google product. And so Google's kind of ahead of the curve on this and really are already baking in additional ways to track and serve ads while maintaining privacy, which is so important to everybody. So we're kind of, we'll touch on that in the next slides, but we're kind of still up in the air. The jury's kind of still out to see where this is all going to go. So tracking's not going away. Like I mentioned, digital fingerprinting and other things are going to be kind of coming to the surface as options. But what we're going to kind of move to, what it looks like anyway, is instead of individual tracking, we're going to be doing it more on the aggregate level and getting interests, you know, at that level. So we can target groups of people with specific interests and affinities, but we won't be able to know kind of the who or be targeting on an individual level. So what we've seen is Google's privacy sandbox, and then Flock, which is kind of it's a federation of cohorts, which is kind of more of a marketing thing. But really what this is tracking people at an aggregate level and being able to utilize that data as a business or as a marketer. And so this is new. It's not really familiar, you know, across, you know, industry wide. So there's different, you know, aspects to this that are still kind of being tested. And so we'll see more of this around, you know, springtime. But really, again, the jury, you hear me say this, the jury's still out on what's going to work and kind of what will stick in the future. So the tracking will still be there, but we're going to kind of massage how we go about tracking users. We being, you know, proverbial marketers and Google and other entities like that. So if we go to the next slide, what can we do if we're not using third-party cookies? So there's a couple larger companies that have already been pioneering how to work with data that's not gathered by third-party cookies. And so Unified ID 2.0 is a combination of two companies, LiveRamp and The Trade Desk. And they have created this Unified ID 2.0, which allows you to use databases of consumers in correlation with your ads. So you can kind of connect this data. But what we're seeing is that this is kind of clunky, and you're going to have to be using more services in order to get the same level of tracking that we have right now with third-party cookies. So again, it's something that may be an alternative, but we're not sure how the efficacy of it is going to be compared to other options. And then there's contextual targeting. And so there's tools out there that will allow you to use the content on your website, the copy of your website, and the copy of other websites, and building context and correlations between this, and then understanding what content a user has engaged with in order to build relevance that way. So there's some differences between the alternatives and how things are going to be achieved. But what we're seeing is it's kind of being developed by other entities that are building either databases of users with, you know, intent and affinities, or using content and kind of the other side of the coin and looking at what's on the internet and how people are interacting with that content and making connections that way. So I see we've got some good questions popping up, so I'll get to those here in a minute. So how can we exploit first-party cookies? So again, Google's privacy sandbox is one way. The other thing is we're seeing a technology that uses a publisher-provided identifier. And so really what that means is if you have a website where people log in, you're able to track that data and then use that in a way to build a database of users that you essentially control. So it's your data, you know who's logged into your site, and then you can use that information to connect those users with relevant affinities and interests and things like that. So instead of using a third party to have this tracking information, you're essentially building it yourself. And this can be good for like if you have an e-commerce website. So if you're selling things on your website, most of the time those people will have an option to create an account. And so if you can encourage users to sign up for your website and create accounts, you're able to capture names, emails, and things like that, and then build your own database. And then once you have that, you can use that for these publisher provided identifiers and combine your information and use that to your advantage. So again, it's kind of, the jury's out. We're going to see what sticks. Really what we need to do, I think, as marketers, what's really important is to look at all of the options and test and really see what makes sense for your business and what works. And I think this is a developing landscape. I kind of joked with Liz at the beginning of this call. We've done a lot of this research for these slides, and they're going to be outdated here pretty soon, in the next, quarter or two as things change. So we'll see what happens from a marketing and tracking perspective. Third-party cookies aren't completely going away. They're just going to become less relevant, and they're not going to be auto-loaded onto users' machines unless they provide consent. So it's kind of what we're seeing the future, and really the takeaway from this is to look at your options, look how your site is set up, potentially enable a possibility to gather more information on your own from a first party perspective, and just be ready to pivot.
One thing too that I'll add to that is what we have started to do with our clients with first party is there's a new capability. You can give your customer list to, and emails, etc., to Google, and they find customers who match yours. And your customers are served ads, but also people who match those audiences. And so that's another way to leverage first party data. So that's data you own. They have to be your customers. They can't be a purchased list. But that's something that we're implementing for a lot of our clients right now to make sure that we're staying in front of the what's happening and what's changing.
Yeah,
so,
we have a question from Sam here. As buyers and consumers are demanding more personalized ad experience, does Apple's IDFA and removal of third-party cookies affect user experience? If so, do you think the major ad data platforms will start backing away from this idea of killing off pixels? And that's a great question. And yes, that is one of the topics or, thoughts on the table is, are we going to be creating more issues by having to develop these other, ways to identify people, like digital fingerprinting, for example? That's becoming kind of a hot topic. How in depth should these fingerprints be? In privacy is obviously a big issue. So it's something that's being talked about, and it's a great question that as far as we can tell, we're not quite sure where that's going to go. It does feel like third-party cookies will be phased out or auto-blocked at some point in the future. And so what's going to replace it is still up in the air, unfortunately. And again, so being able to pivot and test what's out there right now is going to put you ahead of the competition for sure. It's a cumbersome and a convoluted kind of topic, and so people are kind of shying away from it, and they're not sure how to handle it. And so if you can kind of be proactive about it, you'll definitely stay ahead of the competition.
did you see other questions, Mike?
I think that's it.
Any other questions for us?
One thing I wanted to call out, just so it's clear, we used a couple marketing speak terms. When we talk about conversions, we're talking about, users sent to the site and then either buying something if you have an e-commerce site, or making a phone call, we track those, or filling out a contact form. So all of those are considered conversions. And for us, those are obviously the bread and butter for our manufacturers. So we want to make sure that we're tracking those. And I apologize if you can hear my dog snoring in the background.
And your children's artwork, that's always fun.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Feel free to send them in the chat. Looks like everybody kind of shared them with everybody.
Yeah, great questions.
Yeah.
Well, all right. If we don't have any other questions, I want to thank you. Oh, wait. Oh, Rick says he really appreciates all the info.
You bet. Yeah, you're very welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Well, I want to give a big thank you to Liz and Mike for being here today with our Marketing for Manufacturers webinar series. I will make sure that as we recorded this today, that I will send the link to everybody that participated today and also registered. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to me as well, and I can get in contact with you too. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks
for
everyone.
the opportunity.
You bet.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.